Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. So, do you really know what you're eating? I mean, there's so many things that go into foods, especially processed foods, that it's really hard to know, first of all, even what the label means. And then there's ingredients that sometimes aren't even required to put on the label. And then there's other companies that just break the rules and don't put even the required ingredients on the labels. So, a lot of chemicals and additives are a lot more kind of allowed in the US compared to other countries, or even like Europe or the EU as a whole. And then other countries like Australia, they typically have kind of tighter regulations for these things. So oftentimes you have to look outside of the US scientific literature to look for studies that were done on these kind of things. But there's an interesting study that was out of the University of Sydney, and it was published in a journal called Frontiers in Nutrition. And it's a very interesting article on a particular very, very common additive. It's called titanium dioxide. And these are what's called nanoparticles, and it's a certain form called E171. So titanium dioxide E171. It wouldn't say all that stuff on a label. If it even says it on the label, it would just say titanium dioxide. But this stuff is all over in consumer products. It's in over 900 different consumer products. It's in things like candies. It's in sweets like frosting. They might put on like a cake. It's in toothpaste. It's even in mayonnaise. And so if you can kind of sense some common denominators between all those things, is that they're all white, or they can be white. Candies and stuff can be other colors, but it's kind of a whitening sort of colorant, and that's all it does. There's no nutritional value to it. There's really no other purpose other than to be a colorant, to make your food just look a certain way. It's just the way it looks, and that's it. But unfortunately, when they study this material, it has some pretty disturbing effects in the body. One of the things is that titanium dioxide can disrupt the composition of the gut microbiome. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that the gut microbiome is basically central to the rest of the health in your body. If your gut microbiome is imbalanced and unhealthy, the rest of your body is going to be imbalanced and unhealthy. It's just kind of that simple. And so we know that titanium dioxide disrupts the composition, the motility, the function of your gut microbiome. And so it's something that you really got to pay attention to. It's something that you could be ingesting daily that's disrupting the health of your microbiome. And we know the effects of this kind of imbalance of the gut microbiome. We know that it could affect your general health. In fact, there's another study that was published in 2017 in a journal called Scientific Reports, and it also looked at this nanoparticle, titanium dioxide E171, and what they found out, at least in animal subjects, that it increased the chance of colon cancer. And so it affected kind of an inflammatory cascade in the system that led to colon cancer. They also discovered, even in this article, that it breaks down the integrity of the gut barrier. And if it can break down the integrity of the gut barrier, it can get outside the gut and could travel to many different organ systems in the body and disrupt and cause inflammation and immune activation, even in these other organ systems outside the gut. Because I think it was thought for some time that titanium dioxide just kind of stayed in the gut. It was just a whitening agent, it stayed in the gut, just kind of traveled through, and then your body got rid of it. But now we know it doesn't. It can break down the integrity of the gut barrier, it can leak through your gut barrier, and it can get into the rest of the body and wreak havoc. And so this is something that we need to know about. This is something that you need to read labels, or better yet, choose foods that don't have labels. Things like healthy animal proteins and nuts and seeds and fruits and veggies and these kind of things. They don't have labels. They're not processed. All these other things that I mentioned that you oftentimes find things like titanium dioxide in, they've got labels. Hopefully they're labeling it. We can't know 100%, but at least start there. And evaluate anything that you're consuming or putting in or on your body that has titanium dioxide, and I want you to be an informed consumer. And if you choose to consume these things, then you take the risk. But if you choose not to take these things, then it certainly will help to decrease your risk factor for developing some of these things like breakdown of your intestinal barrier, disruption of your gut microbiome, and even increase the chance of developing certain conditions, all from this one nanoparticle, this one tiny little substance that is just to make foods look a little more pleasing to the eye, a little whiter. So anyhow, I hope that's helpful information. I'll keep reading the studies and bringing you the information. Until then, keep it real.